That's a good intro. All right, guys.
He just filibustered for about 10 minutes waiting for you, so give him the props.
Was it bad? I'm sorry. I was on a phone call. Yeah. I can't wait to go back and listen later. All right, guys. Let's knock this out. This is Nate's idea. So,
Just how worn down would you say your team is compared to everyone else, or is this just how it is?
listen, I can't speak for everyone else. I mean, the seasons are obviously long and they're tough, and it's been a long road, but I feel like we're coming out of it. I feel like we're coming out of it at the right time, and, you have to acknowledge it's probably going to happen over the course of a season. You don't manifest it happening, but what it does, you have to deal with it. I think everyone's had to go through it at some point this season, and I'm hoping we had a good day off yesterday, and I told our guys it needed to be our best day of just rest and recovery we've had all season, and then we need to follow it up with a couple good practices because we haven't been able to practice much, and so as a coach, you probably overdo it a little bit, but I think practice matters, so hopefully we can get back to it.
Are you trending towards being at full strength on Saturday?
I hope so. I mean, we're not going to get out ahead of ourselves on it, but hopefully we're going to practice closer to full strength today, and then hopefully that'll lead to playing closer to full strength Saturday.
When you look at the game in Lawrence and what Bidunga was able to kind of do to you guys defensively, what did you take away from that about how you might want to try to neutralize him in this particular game?
Yeah, I mean, he was really good at both ends, as I thought our team played really spirited and played really hard. To be honest with you, I got to dig into that a little bit more tonight. We're still kind of trying to recap Baylor and kind of, build, for a weekend. So looking at a lot of different things, but obviously Kansas is a really good team. I mean, they have crazy high standards in that program, and they're ranked right around the top 10. And for people not to be talking about them, like a top 10 team is because they have such high standards. But we know how dangerous they are, and we felt how good they were when we were there. And Bidunga is definitely a big part of that. I mean, he really impacts the game at both ends of the floor.
A little hard to figure out. I mean, they go and they don't play well at all against Cincinnati, and the next game they look awesome against Houston.
They've been a little bit up and down, for sure. I mean, you have to go back and you have to say, are there reasons they didn't play well? Are they self-inflicted wounds? Are they stuff that the opponent are doing that maybe they just struggle matching up with for whatever reason? So, you gotta just look at it on a case-by-case basis. But, you also, have to understand, you're playing a great program with a great coach and what's going to be a big-time atmosphere on Saturday. So, my expectation is they're going to come ready to play.
Emotions at this level, college level, where home teams, away teams, big games, how those play a part?
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with young people, and young people who, imagine yourself, 18 to 22 years old, or imagine your kids, those of you that have kids that are age, going through this stuff. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ups and downs, and and emotions, can sway, from excitement to sorrow. And so managing that is an important part of the deal. And, obviously playing at home can be a great thing. And, usually, the trend is the home team usually has the advantage. But, from a coaching and playing standpoint, you got to go out and do that. You got to go out and make that happen. And honestly, kind of try to take the emotions out of it. You can't just be a team that's like, well, we're playing at home, so we're going to play harder today. We're playing on the road. It's probably not going to be our day, so we're just going to succumb to it and be a victim of circumstance rather than kind of try to will your way to win. And I thought that's what our team did a great job of on Tuesday. Was they weren't a victim of circumstance. They willed themselves and put themselves in position to win. And when it came time to make winning plays, we were fortunate enough to string a couple winning plays together and ride it out for a W. So that's 100% credit to our players.
Categorize how Kansas looks with Darren in the lineup and with Peterson out of the lineup.
Obviously Darren's an elite talent, and you can speculate all you want. I just don't see any scenario where they're not better or don't have a higher ceiling with him on the floor. So that's what we're going to prepare to play against. Obviously last time it kind of was a surprise that he didn't play. This time, we're fully expecting him to play, and I thought last game, the bits and pieces I was able to watch of him, I thought he looked really good. I thought he moved good. I thought his effort was there. And, listen, he's a really talented player who's obviously a great competitor. You don't have the success he's had without being a great competitor. And I'm sure he's, seeing maybe the end of his only year in college right in front of him. So I'm sure he's going to come out and try to capture that moment and make the most of it.
Anything to JB leading into this last game about if the three is there, you need to take it or anything? Because he hadn't really taken many threes.
No, I mean, I always tell JB to take threes. So, but I respect JB enough as a player and as a person. I told him, I want him to do, I trust him to make those decisions in the moment. Like we're not coaching out of an instruction manual. And, JB is the player, I'm the coach. And as the coach, I got to trust my players are doing things they're comfortable doing. And if he's turning down threes, I guess there's a reason, But for him to go 5 of 8 from 3 doesn't surprise me, And I think it's just a great sign that we can win a lot of ways. If teams are going to come and try to game plan by not guarding Jaden Bradley, I guess so be it.
Do you think that maybe the fact that he has been so good at the mid-range that teams are more anticipating of that and it leaves him more space?
I think teams are just making choices, and in scouting and preparing for games, you got to make choices. And I think some teams are choosing to close out really short on him, or be heavy in the gaps, and that's their choice.
What you've seen from Yvonne at the 4, and what's that doing to defenses when he plays there?
Well, I mean, the main thing is just Yvonne as a player overall, is really, being able to showing more of what he's capable of. Yvonne, is on a really good team. He's a first-year player from Europe over here, and so, he settled into a role that was really important for our team and that he had success with right away. With kind of the recent, kind of injury bug and illness bug we've had. He's gotten some more opportunities to kind of play make a little bit, and he's been great at it. I mean, last game, you go back and watch, he was really impactful. I mean, I think he might only had 8 points, but he had 6 big assists. Like his assists literally led to dunks and layups, or a hustle play to a wide open 3. And I mean, those are just winning plays. So he's just a consummate winner, and whatever role you ask him to play, he plays it well.
Determined it's probably a thin line with Tobe between being aggressive and not picking up those early fouls.
Tobe's deal simple. Just don't run guys over at the end of a play. I mean, just stop. I mean, that's simple. That's what I talked about him at Houston. But, in Tobe's defense, he kind of told me, he's like, I was going for the ball. I just saw the ball. I didn't even see the guy. And, there's probably something to be said for that too. So, he was going for the ball with 2 hands, didn't see the guy. The guy ended up getting into his way before he got to the ball, and the guy ended up with the worst of it, and Tobe ended up with a foul, at the end of a hustle play. And, Tobe, he's done a good job all year. When you're that aggressive and that physical, fouls are going to be part of it, and for the most part, he's done a really good job all season avoiding significant foul trouble.
And then, not trying to get you in trouble here, but it feels like Mo has struggled to get a consistent whistle with the amount of times he's
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's nothing about the officials, that we need to talk about. Mo's a really good player. The officials know it. There's 2 ends of the court. The officials are always going to remind you of that. You might be fixated on one end of the court, him not getting a call. They might be telling you they passed on the same play at the other end. So, that's just how the game goes with the officiating stuff. But Mo's a good player who, is, I'm looking for him to kind of break out here a little bit. He's played well. Everyone knows how good he is. The last few games, statistically maybe haven't been his best, and, we need his production. I mean, he's been getting doubled, and we've been playing through his double teams a little bit, but, we also need some points out of him as well. So, he's got to find that sweet spot of being, productive on the offensive end every game.
Talk about CD and Nelson, how they've helped you get through this.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I tell you guys all the time, that there's going to come a time and point in the season where you're going to need those guys. And so those guys get credit for hanging with it. Our staff gets credit for, keeping them ready and keeping them motivated. And, and those guys had really important moments the last few games, and they really helped us. So, we may continue to need it, and not now. Maybe it's easier to go dip into that well after you've forced to have some success with it, for sure.
We've seen, Tommy, from Anthony in these last 3 games, having to play a little bit more with the injuries you've had. Does that change the way you use him moving forward?
Not really. We've always kind of, wanted Deli to be aggressive and hunt shots, and I think he's maybe got a little more extended run, and just I think he's done a better job just hunting shots and moving within the spaces of the offense to find those shots. I mean, that's the biggest thing, he's got to be able to. The best way for him to get up a higher volume of shots is find shots within the offense, and his teammates find him. Because you can call a great play, and it might work once. But then it won't work again. So then you have to play basketball, and that's where he's to me he's got to do his damage is in those random moments, over the course of a game, and you got to hunt shots, and you got to be willing to miss some shots to do that. And so obviously he's been really good the last few games, and even last game when he wasn't at 100%, he was an important part of us getting the W.
You've spoken very highly of the atmosphere at Allen Fieldhouse, what Kansas has accomplished there. This will be their first time coming here, the last of the teams. How much are you putting on the fans and all that to create an atmosphere that maybe doesn't match but is comparable?
I mean, why shouldn't we match it? I hope our fans welcome Kansas and Coach Shelf like their fans welcomed me. Nothing disrespectful, but they were there for it, and that would be great. And we know everyone's been excited about this game for a long time. And for us, it's one of 18 games in your conference schedule, and you're playing at home on a Saturday afternoon, and you want to take advantage of that. So I'm not going to make more of the game than it really is. But yeah, I mean, our fans need to know that there's a standard that's been set for fandom, and Kansas is pretty high up that list. So let's compete.
The Jayhawks dominated the offensive last time around. How do you try to limit that?
Block out. Block out. Rebound better. They just say we got to be better there. Rebounding is obviously a huge key to the game for both sides, and you want to make sure you're taking. If you can get them to miss a shot, let's do our best job securing it, and then that can kickstart our offense.
Last night over at Pima for Coach Roz's ceremony, how would you describe his impact?
Oh man, Coach Roz is he's a one of one. He was one of the first people I met with when I got the job down here, and just was as entertaining in that conversation, and it was impactful on me as any conversation about what it meant to be the coach at Arizona. He's a great man. And and he and I, are kind of kindred spirits. I lived his life for a lot of years, where I was, an assistant for a Hall of Fame coach, and I know the work that those assistants for those Hall of Fame coaches and the impact they have in the program. I know what it is, and so he and I have always had a special connection. And he's a great guy, a great man. He's a character. During the game last night, I was kind of sitting on the baseline, and I saw him pull some young gal over, she's a manager or something, whispered something in her ear, and I saw him looking at me, and then she walked over to me, and she said, "Coach Roz wanted me to tell you, this is what real basketball looks like." And I just looked at him, and it was like 40-34 after the half. I'm like, "Coach," I pointed to the court, I'm like, "Just watch the game and win the game," but that's him. He's a one of one. So just a great guy, and and I hope our fans really wrap their arms around him, because in this community wraps their arms around him, because without him, this program wouldn't be where it is. He doesn't get all the credit, but he's a significant part of this program and the fabric of this program and the culture of Arizona basketball.
The last time we talked to you in this setting was the day before they announced Alchemy as the new sponsor on the arena. You had a chance to meet those guys, and what are your thoughts?
I met them, I guess, really early in the process. But to be honest with you, I heard about the same time you guys did. So I'm not in on a lot of those decisions. So obviously, hopefully it's a great thing for the university. I'm sure it is, and we know that revenue generation is a driving force in college athletics now, and we don't want to fall behind in that area. So it looks to me like they're going to be great partners.
Your team has been through a lot since you guys faced Kansas last. How do you think your team's changed or evolved?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always kind of keep in the back of my mind that you never know what your team's going to look like next week, because so many things happen in over the course of a season, with injuries, illness, emotions, just all those things kind of, collectively, it's just it's a lot of things that can kind of alter the makeup of your team. And so, I think we got through a really tough stretch, and I think we're better for it. Now, we got to play, obviously 3 more conference games, and, these next 2 are, before we get a little break and play the last one, or as big as any games all season, So we need to kind of put to the test, where we're at, how far we've come, and, and hopefully it shows up on the court these next couple games.
Just to clarify, is Dwayne expected to practice today? Has he been practicing this week?
Well, we haven't practiced this week, so we're just going to practice this afternoon, and I think he's going to participate today.
You've always kind of been an in-the-moment, game-to-game type of coach, but this week you did kind of speak to the fact that it's important to win the Big 12 regular season championship. Why was that important to maybe make that statement now?
Because it's closer to reality. Like, who cares what anybody says after 3, 5, 7, 8 games? But as you get to the end and you see an opportunity, I think you can acknowledge it's an opportunity, but by no means is it our, should it be bestowed upon us? We're going to have to go get it. And this team's done a good job hanging with it all year and putting ourselves in position to be in position. Now let's see what happens Saturday and see if we can inch closer to getting there. Obviously it'd be a great accomplishment. Conference, regular season conference championships mean a lot, I know, to programs and to the coaches, maybe not to fan bases, as much, because they want to get fixated on what they consider the final result. But when you do what we do, anytime you're judged over a conference season against, your competitors, and if you can come out on top, that says something about your program. So, obviously we want to be a team competing for championships, and, a Big 12, championship would be no different. It'd be something we'd be really proud to get done, but do it. We got to go do it now.
Has anyone surprised you over this last 5 stretches you guys are battling through?
No surprises. We know what we have. We know what kind of competitive character we have, and we know how talented our players are. It probably would have been more surprising had they not risen to the occasion for me than having them rise to the occasion. But that doesn't mean it should be expected. You know what I mean? Like what these guys did, this last, 3-game stretch, with all the injuries and the illnesses we've had to deal with, should be commended. These guys have had to dig deep and then dig deeper and find a way.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.